Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another spring break at the Carter Adventure. I'm so glad to see all of you today. How's it going? Is your week going well? Yes, I hope so. My goodness. There are so many adventures that we can get up to today. And so I'm just going to go ahead and get started. You can see I already have my artwork behind me, and I'm going to lean out of the way a little bit so that we can look at it together. Because we need to look before we can really talk about something. Today we have a photograph. And while you're looking closely, I want to just tell us a little bit about what we're seeing. We are in the middle of a forest, and I can see that it is maybe fall because all of the trees have orange and yellow leaves. And so the whole outside of the picture is just full of these really bright, fiery orange and yellow leaves with a few tree trunks sticking out of it. And right in the center is a beautiful, calm, misty waterfall. And I bet that if you were walking through the forest and you came upon this waterfall, you could hear your feet crunching in the leaves and maybe squishing in the mud. And you could start hearing the whoosh of a waterfall. And you know what? Let's all be a waterfall really quick. Get your waterfall fingers in front of you, up and down, making a waterfall together. Whoosh. And start making some waterfall noises. What does a waterfall sound like? Whoosh. Whoosh. And you know what? This feels good in my body. So I'm even going to shut my eyes. And I invite you to do the same. And let's make 4 nice long whooshing noises while we make our waterfall fingers. All right, shut your eyes. Whoosh. 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 Oh, that felt good. Did that feel good to you? Sometimes it's hard for me to sit still and turn my brain down a little bit because I get so excited. So that's a helpful exercise that you can do if you want to be a waterfall for a little while. Very helpful. And it helps me look even closer at this beautiful photograph by Robert Ketchum. What are some words that you could use to describe this picture? I might use the word autumn, which is like a fancy word for fall. I might say rich, because it has beautiful, rich colors. Buttery, because that yellow reminds me of butter, I gotta say. What else could we use? Beautiful, calm, serene, natural. Beautiful, beautiful words like that. Here's the thing though. There may be more to this picture than what we're seeing right now. So I'm going to mess with us a little bit. I'm going to share my screen. And we are going to look. We're going to read a poem together by my friend Brenda Ciargiello. She is one of the Carter community artists. And I think it's going to help us understand this picture. She wrote this poem just for us. So I'm going to read it through 2 times, all right? I'll read it through once, and then I'm going to invite you all to read it through with me. Okay, this poem is called Water Falls. Water falls, and as it falls, it has a way of quenching, cleansing, even the dirt, and sometimes our hearts. Cold, clear, beautiful, bubbling life as it drip, drops. It drips, drops. And away fall our tears, our darkest of fears, the truths we drink and the lies we pour down the sink. Out of sight, rushing, gushing, cascading through rock and leaf and valley, anywhere but here, apparently draining away, but really just falling right back into our drinking glass. A poem by Brenda Ciardiello, February 21st, 2021, inspired by, and here is the title of the picture. Are you ready? VNRA number 125, a toxic waterfall in a national recreation area by Robert Glenn Ketchum. There's some new information there. So this is a beautiful picture of a beautiful waterfall, but the title says it's toxic. It's been polluted. Let's read through that poem one more time so that we can let it really seep into our brains and bodies. Are you ready? Water falls. Water falls. And as it falls, it has a way of quenching, cleansing, even the dirt, and sometimes our hearts. Cold, clear, beautiful, bubbling life as it drops. It drips, drops. And away fall our tears and our darkest of fears, and the truths that we drink and the lies we pour down the sink, out of sight, running, gushing, cascading through rock and leaf and valley, anywhere but here, apparently draining away, but really just falling right back into our drinking glass. Now, I'm going to come back to you. Now, what's interesting to me is that Brenda's poem reminds us that, all of the water in all of the world may be in a river, it may be in a waterfall, it may be in the ocean, but do you know where it eventually comes? Into our drinking glass. So we should probably take care of it, huh? So Mr. Ketchum's picture right here shows us two opposite things. It shows us a beautiful waterfall, which it is a beautiful waterfall, but it also shows us a toxic waterfall and one that needs to be repaired, right? One that we should be taking care of, especially since it's in a place like a national park, a national recreation area, a place that we're supposed to be taking care of already, right? So in this instance, we have opposites, two things that mean completely different things, and they exist in the same spot together. That happens a lot in our world. And I bet that if you tried really hard, you could think of some other things that are opposites but exist in the same space. I want y'all to play a game. It's kind of a fun game, and you can play it when we're off of this video, but it's a game to practice your opposites, all right? It's called the opposite game, and you can play it, honestly, you can play it by yourself. You can play it in pairs, or you can play it as a group, all right? Are you ready to hear about it? So if you're playing in a group, everybody get in a circle, and someone gets in the middle, and that person is it. Now everybody's going to get to take turns being it. Don't worry, you'll have your turn if you're not it first. But the person in the middle gets to make a movement with their body, any movement they want, say lifting their right arm. Okay, once everyone's lifted, so the person in the middle lifts their right arm, everyone else has to do the opposite. So if I have my right arm up, the opposite of that is to lift your left arm. So if I were in the middle of a circle and I lifted my right arm, everybody else would have to very fast lift their left arm instead. All right. And it gets sillier and sillier because you could lift both of your arms, in which case everyone would have to put both of their arms down really fast. Or I could open my arms wide and everyone would have to close them really fast. You can do it with your legs or with your heads, any kind of movement. And the challenge is to just see who can do it the fastest. And then you can rotate who is it. You could also do it with words. So if the person in the middle said dark, everybody else around them might need to say light. That's an example of opposite words: dark and light, open, closed. The list goes on. It's kind of a tricky game, and I encourage you to try and play it together. Let's look at another artwork, shall we? Here, let me switch my screen and show us something different. How about this right here? Now, some of you may be saying, Allie, that is not artwork. That is just a cabinet that looks like it belongs in my house. And to that, I would say it can kind of be both. This is the Texas cabinet by artist Mark Dion. And look, it is just chock full of goodies. And in fact, I'm going to bring us in a little bit closer so that you can really see everything inside. Now, art can take many, many forms, and this artwork is a collection. Mark Dion is a historian, he's a collector, and he's an artist. And for this sculpture, you want to know what he did? He traveled all over the great state of Texas. You know, it's a really big state. Traveled all over the place. And with the goal of following in the footsteps and learning about 4 historical figures that were important to Texas for a variety of reasons. So he followed in the footsteps of John James Audubon, who you may recognize as a famous ornithologist who made lots of paintings and prints of birds that, and helped everybody learn more about all the different birds that live in the United States. And he followed in the footsteps of Sarah Ann Lilly Hardinge, who was a watercolorist, and architect Frederick Law Olmsted, and botanist Charles Wright. So all of these different important people who brought their skills to Texas and did important things, Mark Dion followed in their footsteps and made a big collection along the way. So we're going to play a little bit of I Spy with this. And so you don't have to be able to see anything too clearly, but I'm just going to say some things that I spy and see if you can find them. Are you ready? I spy something that quacks. Squint really hard and see if you can find something that quacks. Did you find it? Yeah, that's right up here. It's all of those ducks that are in the top left of that cabinet. Let's try again. I spy, I spy something that goes moo, moo. Can y'all see the little cow toy? Yeah, it's on the shelf, 2 shelves below the ducks, a little wooden cow toy. There are lots of toys on there. There's something that barks, and it looks like there's something that whinnies. I spy something bright and colorful. Can y'all see it? Yeah, there's a big old jar of pom-poms right there smack in the middle. There are all sorts of things in here. There are nuts and acorns and mesquite beans and seashells, all kinds of interesting things from all over Texas. And it makes me wonder, why do people collect things? In fact, do you collect things? Do you have a collection? I have lots of collections. And I think that our collections say something about us. Like right here in front of me, I have a collection of yarn. This isn't yarn, this is thread. I collect thread because I sew, and I really like collecting. That one's disappearing. Lots of different colors of thread. Yeah, so that's one thing that you could collect. I collect seashells. I collect rocks. What do you collect? I would love for you to tell me down in the comments. It would be great to see. So collections tell us lots about ourselves, what we're interested in, but they can also be a way of keeping memories for one another. And I think that's kind of what Mark Dion's sculpture here really excites me about. And so we have a project suggested to us by Michelle Gonzalez, who is another one of our Carter community artists. And I am going to share with you a way that you can be just like Mark Dion and make a collection all on your own. So let me find another picture. Okay, so I'm sharing this so that you can see the words too. Let me move out of the way. And I'm gonna read this aloud to you. This is called, the project is called The Unique Adventures of Me. And so what Michelle wants us to do is to explore our homes and our neighborhoods and just collect whatever is interesting to us. And that could be, like I said, acorns or flowers or pieces of grass or little toys that you find. Anything that you find that you think is interesting, we want you to go and collect. That's your first step. Maybe 6 to 8 objects would be a good start. Toy cars, marbles, things like that. Probably make sure to get permission from your grown-ups before you select too many things. You don't want to be selecting something that is, special to someone else because, well, you're going to keep it. You're going to put it in your artwork. So next you want to find a display case. And that can be like a cardboard box, or it could be another wooden box. It could be any kind of case that you want. I found a cardboard box that I'll show you in a minute. Next, you're going to want to arrange your items inside that box, just like you're making a cabinet. And you can do that lots of different ways. You can arrange them by color, by size, or you can even tell a story with your objects. And then, see, this is optional, but I think it's really fun. You could paint the inside of your display case white or black or a really bright orange, whatever kind of color you want to paint the inside of your box. And then maybe hot glue your items into your display case. Again, with a grown-up's permission, because you don't want to be gluing objects in there if you're going to need them later on, right? And also hot glue can be a little bit dangerous, so you want to make sure you have a grown-up there watching out for you, okay? And finally, you get to display your display case, and you might use, you might wrap it in packing tape or cling wrap in order to get like a clear wall on it so that you can see inside. And I'm going to show you some examples of what this can look like. Right here. Oop, still need to move like this. See, these are some of, these are kind of some step-by-steps of what Michelle did. So first, in the top left, she gathered all of her supplies, and you can see a cardboard box and some cling wrap and some packing tape and a pen and a pencil. And that's the other thing. You want to write down what you found and keep a little journal about it. And then you can see up here where I'm pointing, we have a roll of packing tape and her display case. And she used an X-Acto blade or scissors, again, get a grown-up to help you, to cut out a little window so that she could open the box and see inside. And then in the bottom, we have 2 examples of what her finished project could look like. On the left, you can see like a tin of Altoids and maybe some plants and toys. And on the right, it looks like we have some buttons and some lace and almost like some Fruit Loops or something. Super fun. And you can see that they kept a journal that tells about each object that is included in their project. How fun is that? I hope that you will all decide to try out your hand at making your own collections too, because I think it's lots of fun. And it's kind of a way of making a self-portrait. And we're going to be talking about portraits a little later this week, so just keep that in your brain, okay? One last thing is that we have a special guest today. And some of you may have met him before, but he's been waiting very patiently over here to the side this whole time. And so I'm going to bring him up and see if he appears with my background and not super well. So I'm going to turn off my virtual background so that we can see him better. There we go. Surprise, you're in my house. Well, hello, everyone. How are you today? I am doing very well, Prickles, and I bet you everyone else is doing well too. What do you have in store for us today? Well, I heard that everybody was making collections and exploring their neighborhoods this week. Well, that's right, Prickles. Does that sound like fun to you? It does. And here's the thing, Allie, I have a surprise for you. What's your surprise, Prickles? Well, one of my very good friends who also lives here has set up a follow the leader scavenger hunt for you. A follow the leader scavenger hunt. What is that? Yeah, that's right. So the idea is that this person, and I'm not going to tell you who it is, you're going to have to figure it out. This person chose lots of things that they loved and hid them outside for you. And then they want you to come and find them. Do y'all want to go on a scavenger hunt with me? What are we looking for, Prickles? They hid things that are like a pinky purple orangey color, because that color is very important to them. Okay, so we're going to go outside and look for some pinky purpley orangey things. Let's go. All right, my friends, we're outside and Prickles told us to look for things that are kind of pinky purpley, and I'm very curious to see where this leads us. I have my finding things basket and I'm ready to go find things. Are you ready? Okay. All right, just looking at my sidewalk and I think we have our first thing. That looks like a very pink comb. So in the basket it goes. And we're walking and I don't see anything. Oh my goodness. Someone left their orangey pinky sock in the middle of the sidewalk. Into the basket it goes. What could be next? Anything over there? No. Anything over there? No. Hello, friend. Okay, another pinky, purpley, orangey, silly friend. Into the basket it goes. I wonder who we're looking for. Hey! We have this cup that is also kind of a pinky, orangey color. And then this necklace with rhinoceroses on it. Interesting. Now it's pointing in an interesting way, so I'm going to pick it up, but then I'm going to look in the direction it pointed. And it's pointing to my mailbox. And oh my goodness, there's someone in my mailbox. Who is in there? You know, I think I know who this is. Oh, it's my friend Ferdinand. Ferdinand, what were you doing in that mailbox? He was trapped. Well, thank goodness we went on with this little scavenger hunt. Otherwise, poor Ferdinand would have been stuck in that mailbox all day. And maybe he could have been mailed to Australia or Fiji or Great Britain or China or some place all the way across the world, and we would miss him very much. Yeah, instead of staying right here at home with all of us. I'm so glad that we found Ferdinand. My goodness, what a silly bird. But this is a really fun game that y'all could play inside or outside with your families, or honestly just by yourself. Go and leave a trail of breadcrumbs that are important to you, and then have people find them. Really fun, and you could do it all day in lots of different kinds of ways. That's all I have for you today. I hope you'll join me tomorrow for another spring break adventure, well, we'll be doing something completely different. Have a great day. Bye, everybody.